Much. Let's move on to Kim Clark, who is now with Money Magazine. Just started yesterday, as a matter of fact. Congratulations, Kim. On your new job and your title there. Or you don't have a business card yet, do you?
No, I don't even have an ID card yet. So
you don't have
you have to take it on faith.
I'll take your word for it.
Okay.
I believe every word you say. Now, you've been covering this beat of education for a very long time.
Right.
You've done many, many cover stories for U.S. News, rating colleges, rating these people to your right.
Not the people, the institutions.
Okay, what they represent. Okay, that's fine. And looking at affordability and what colleges can offer. So what do you see in the landscape? Is it changing dramatically, and is it changing for the worse?
Yeah, I have to say that I've been doing this for many years, and I have never been so depressed about the affordability of college as I am now. I don't see any hope of it getting more affordable. How's that for cheery news?
Thank you and good night.
Yeah,
no.
right. Okay.
You'll find underneath each table aspirin. Yes, I'm sorry.
But I did want to provide some practical advice. How many people here are thinking about, University of Massachusetts and Amherst or as a possibility? Okay,
yes,
a few.
Lots of hands over here,
okay.
yes.
So I looked up on their wonderful website. The average cost this year is about $22,000. How many people here can fork out $22,000 a year for their kid? Well, I don't see any hands. Okay, so how are you going to pay for this, right? You're freaking out. I did a little math. First of all, thanks to Obama and the Congress, anyone who pays for tuition can take $2,500 off, get a $2,500 credit on their taxes next year, so that's $2,500 you didn't think you had. A freshman can borrow up to $5,500 on the Stafford loan, so now we're up to $8,000. If you're from a family earning about $80,000 to $90,000, you'll probably qualify for about $2,500 in grants. So now we're almost cutting the cost in half. You can almost see how we're getting there. If the student works, which is a great idea, studies show that students who work 8 to 10 or 12 hours a week during school actually get better grades, and are more likely to graduate because it requires them to allocate their time, more efficiently. So another $2,000 to $4,000 if they get a summer job. So this way, we've already cut your net out-of-pocket cost down to maybe $4,000 to $6,000. And if the student has left the house, how many people are going to save money on milk and groceries, right? So when you consider all the savings and the tax benefits and the loans that the students can take out, reasonable federal student loans, your net out-of-pocket cost might come down to $4,000 or $5,000. And hopefully that number seems doable to you. You think you can do $5,000 a year out of savings? Raise your hand. Okay. So you can afford to go, let's say, to the University of Massachusetts at Amherst. So it is possible. It's hard, but you can do it. Yeah.
Jack leaned to me and said, "Is there time for a rebuttal?" Coming up. Just a moment, President. Just in a few minutes. Kim, I know that you've written extensively about student loans as well. And with all the debate and really all the static going on in Washington, what do you think will occur when everything comes out the other side?
Right. Well, with the democratically somewhat controlled Senate and the Republicans in the House, I don't think actually much will ever happen. So what's interesting to me is just 3 years ago, President Bush and the Democrats in Congress were arguing over who could raise the Pell Grant more. It was a Republican tenet that that education was important and funding the Pell Grant. They wanted to one-up each other. And so I find it fascinating that the Republicans have made a 180-degree turn and are now trying to cut the Pell Grant below what I think President Bush proposed. So, the pendulum swings back and forth. I guess I hope that they won't cut it this year because people are already packaging making their financial aid awards right now. So that would make them have to scramble. So I think it'll be flat. I don't see any growth, but I hope that it won't be cut.
You recently wrote an article called 6 Steps in Beating the Shortage of Financial Aid.
Right.
And I know you've just spoken about some of those steps.
Right.
What are some of the others that people can follow?
Well, the statistics show that 50% of all students get some sort of grant, and that includes adult students and so on. So your odds of getting a grant are 50-50. And the average size of the grant, I think, is about $4,000. So you shouldn't count on a grant, but if the kid is willing to spend some time looking for scholarships or contacting their college or their high school counselor or their local Lions Club. I mean, you do have a chance of building some private scholarships, so that's one thing you can certainly do.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you for the roller coaster ride in your first response. Woo. Okay. Dee Lee from WBSE, a certified financial planner and author, thank you so much for coming. Dee and I talk on the radio every day, and it's a pleasure to have you here. Dee and I have been doing that for 10 years now?
10 years.
About 10 years. Dee didn't want to be waiting in here for you to come in. She wanted to be outside talking with all of you like she always does, talking to you individually about what your concerns are. And my first question is, what did you hear from our audience this morning and their major concerns about why they're here?
Well, what I found is many of them have kids in high school. I would have liked to see parents of kids in kindergarten, because obviously I'm a planner and I like to plan. And can you afford college? Probably if you start when that kid is in diapers, yes, you can. But the concern I had is, how am I going to pay for this? And I've got triplets. I've got 2 kids in high school. I've got, kids along the way that are, back to back. I mean, how do I pay for it? How do I get money for their college education and not worry about being able to retire when I want to? So that's a major concern out there. Everybody wants the American dream. We want the house. We want the kids. We want the college education. And it's a covenant. We have said to this little infant in our arms, we're going to get you to college. Nowhere does it say in the Constitution that everyone has to have a college education and mom and dad have to pay for it. So my concern always is, who's responsible for paying for college? And you've heard all my esteemed individuals up here tell you about what you can do, but whose responsibility is it? Whose education is it? Who's going to benefit from that $1 million difference between a high school diploma and a college education? It's the kid. And unless you get them to sign an agreement that they're going to take care of you in your old age, they should be part of paying for college. And, how do you do that? Well, we'll talk about it.
Okay. I also know that you've spoken extensively about, sharing the wealth, so to speak, sharing the responsibility. Early on, trying to get family members and parents to invest so they can save for college at an early age. How does that begin, and who's part of this team for each child?
Well, I think a family is part of the team. It takes a village to raise a child. Well, it probably takes a village to send a kid to college. You heard about some of the other possible scholarships from the small town, from the Lions, from the Masons, whatever. But also, if a family wants a kid to go to college, it becomes a family investment. And I talked to several grandparents who were here today. And that's one of the things, my husband is here also. We have a 4-year-old granddaughter. And we'd like her to go to college, just like her dad did and her aunt. And so that's a concern. And do you know what I did 2 days after she was born? I signed up for the 529 plan here in Massachusetts. And every year on her birthday and every year the 1st of January, we make contributions to her college education plan, because we want to be sure that she's going to get to college.
What about the other side, and that is tax savings with these college expenses? I know that we've talked about how to reduce the cost, but how do we cut and save on the amount that we pay in taxes on the other side?
Well, I just happen to have from the IRS tax benefits for education.
I thought you would.
I've got 10 copies, which was all the IRS would give me when I stopped. So anyone who's got kids as a senior, come and get them, you can have it. But there are so many more benefits than there were 20 and 30 years ago. You've got the credits, which are wonderful. You've got student loan interest deduction, which, by the way, that can go on for a long time. So there are many deductions. There are other things that you can do. And as you alluded to, you can cut the cost by half to 2/3 if you want to go to UMass, because she was just using that as the $22,000. So there are ways to go to school. And from experience, and studies have shown that if a kid has ownership of that college education, 1, they'll do better, 2, they'll finish in 4 years. This is a big concern for parents. A 4-year education now is 6 years. We said to our kids 2 things. We'll help pay for college. You're responsible for your spending. You're responsible for those midnight pizza runs. You're responsible for your clothes. You're responsible for your telephone. We'll help you as much as we can, but we're going to do it for 4 years. That's it. We're done. So you have to have an education done in 4 years, and you have to have an education that's going to get you a job when you graduate. None of this, well, I need to go to grad school now, or, gee, I want to take the summer off. And that's hard to do. The job market right now is so lousy that everyone is finding, as you're graduating, the kids are still looking for jobs. It took my niece 1.5 years to find a job. Of course, she worked in waitress and various other things while that 1.5 years was going on, but to find a job in her newfound profession took 1.5 years. So the kids are finding it hard to find jobs when they graduate. Now, whose responsibility is that? Is it the kids or is it the college? And you talked about value early on. Are the kids taking advantage of the things in college? Most kids aren't. Most kids aren't even aware that they should be looking at the career office freshman year. They should be walking in that career office freshman year. Both my kids use that career office to get their jobs. So, our school's doing as good a job as we'd like them to. We send this baby, because in many of our minds, this 17-year-old's still a baby, and in the school mind, they're a young man or a young woman. I know they haven't got their mother there every morning to say, got your homework done? School thinks they're responsible. As a parent, we know they're not. We know that freshman year is going to be tough. And if you don't know it, you've heard it here.